You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara Ice Dogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara Ice Dogs.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another installment of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara Ice Dogs, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your November 3rd, 2022 edition. Guys, if you enjoy the IceDogs content on the network, make sure you're following us at Dog Pound Podcast and at Armchair GM Pod. Make sure you're liking us on Facebook and Instagram. And we are available on whatever audio platform you're listening to us right now, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Deezer, wherever you're getting your podcast at in audio form, we're there on demand for you guys. And as if you're watching in video, we are on YouTube, and you can like us on youtube.com. Make sure you're following us at Armchair GM Sports Network over there. Subscribe, hit that bell, hit that like for all updates on videos that get released on our channel. As always, I'm the host of the Dog Pound Podcast. My name is Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter right underneath there at Caputs13_AGM. And as well, you can follow my co-host Kyle at JustKyle51. Make sure you check out the Niagara Ice Dogs website as well. We are on there under the media tab, Dog Pound Podcast. You can find all of our content right there on the official NiagaraIceDogs.net website as the official podcast of your Niagara Ice Dogs. Kyle, we're going into a 3-game week for the Ice Dogs. They're hitting the road for the northern road trip. But we've got to talk about the 2 games last week, London and Windsor. Not the results that the Ice Dogs wanted.
Like, do we have to talk about it? Like,
a little bit.
We just forget those even happened and just, we're on another road trip. Let's get at it. Let's go, boys. It's so tough to move past those losses, especially the second loss. First loss hurt because it's London,
and it was an overtime.
Second loss was just, oh man, if there's ever a game you want to forget, but it's going to be now sketched in history here.
Well, you thought
it was that game.
You thought the game in Windsor was bad, and it ended up being even worse. It seemed both the games were Halloween games, so it was like a house of horrors for the Niagara Ice Dogs playing the 2 games against Windsor within a week of each other. Windsor at that point still had not lost a game in regulation. Of course, the night after they played Niagara, they went to Erie and lost, so their streak's finally over. But the Ice Dogs gave up 19 goals in 2 games, Kyle, to the Windsor Spitfires. It was, just was not great.
It's horrible. It was literally bad. And, yeah, it was a house of horror for both games, but I didn't even say that they played that second game. They didn't play. That what we saw, they played the first. Okay, I'll give them credit. The first period, and I'm gonna be critical of this episode. You know what? I think we can be critical when it needs to. I'm not gonna sit here and freak out and say that we're moving to Brantford and sell the farm. That's not happening here. I can get that from us. Get it from the other croutons out there, but not from us. I don't understand what they were trying to accomplish in that third period by just letting Windsor run them over. They let Windsor run over them in that third period. There was no try. They weren't out there to play. It was Sunday night shinny for the Ice Dogs at Friday and at third period. It was absolutely embarrassing. And I felt bad for the people that had to witness that. And, I'll give props to the fans that stayed, the loyal fans that stayed through that entire lashing of that third period. But my God, watching that in the press box was absolutely hard to watch and a tough pill to swallow after, that 8-4 game the Sunday prior. And I'm like, okay, you know what? We face them at home on Friday. Maybe we can get some revenge on them. We can, make it a closer game. No. It was just like, no, it's the last game we ever play them. We're just gonna, do what you got to do. Score a little stat pat for you here. You can roll this little red carpet here. You can come right into our zone. Picnic basket and the picnic bench is right there in front of our net. All you players can go over there and do what you please. You can set up in front of the net. We won't push you out of the way. You can sit there all you want. You can try to put as many goals you want on Flores and Rose and Swag. Those are our two goalies, if you guys didn't know. And you know what? If you guys want to go to double digits, you don't have to. But if you want to go to double digits, you guys can. We'll let you have that in the third period. It's a lot of looted time. If you want to score during our cheeseburger chant in the last minute of the game, there's for you. I mean, your fans will get any cheeseburgers, but, that's all right. You guys can still score during that minute. It's all right. There'll be some fans left there, but that's all right as well. But you can do whatever you want. And look what happened. The Ice Dogs did all that. Everything I just listed out right there in that third period. It's exactly what we saw on Friday night. And it was frustrating to watch, especially after going to overtime with London the night prior and then losing to London. It was just not a good game and a non-good mood. And you could feel it in the crowd too going into that Friday game. It was like stepping on eggshells. But regardless, it's just games you're going to have to move on from at the end of the day. We can't sit here and fret on it and, zip up the body bag and call it a season. There's still 60 games left. But, man, was that ever an embarrassing third period, and I really hope we never see something like that again.
Wow, what a rant from Kyle. I think there's 56 games left, if my math serves me correctly. But not a good streak for the Niagara Ice Dogs currently. They're on an 0-3-2 run in their last 5 games. Again, they don't play the Windsor Spitfires anymore, which is probably good right now because Windsor,
I'll say it, thank God,
just has their number through the 2 games.
But I kind of do want to face them again because I don't want to end the season on that note. But unfortunately, we have to unless we played them somehow in the
OHL
finals
championship.
of the OHL Cup.
The game against London, again, the first 2 periods were kind of rough, but I really felt in that third period, it really felt like a playoff type atmosphere, being able to tie that game up and then it go into overtime and they, turn the puck over at the blue line and Montreal Canadiens prospect Logan Mailloux went in and scored the breakaway. But just something about, the Ice Dogs 3-on-3, 4-on-4 that has been rough at times this year. And the Windsor game, you basically said it all. There's really nothing that I want to add to that. It was just bad all around.
It was embarrassing. We're going to call it like we see it. It was embarrassing. It's going to happen. And when it happens, we're going to call them out for it. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. But
and I'm sure they're going to learn from it because Coach wasn't happy. There was no post interview, but we did get to talk to him a little bit. And they're gonna learn from it, and they're gonna work on it, and they're gonna bounce back, guys. It's only the beginning of the season, but still, it was definitely not a good look for the team.
Yeah.
And like you said, even in the London game, like they're struggling. They've shown they struggled a lot of open ice areas, like the 3-on-3, the 4-on-4 situations have not gone their way at all at any point this season. And you went there on Saturday to film some stuff. And you said that at practice, what were they working on? Open ice 4-on-4 stuff, the drills. There you go, guys. They're working on it. Let's, again,
yeah,
the croutons out there that want to have the pitchforks and torches lit like that episode from the Simpsons movies right outside the Meridian Center. Calm it down a little bit. They're working on it.
And they were actually working in some, I guess you could say, in tight drills, some close combat, push the nets together in the corner, have them go at it 1-on-1 with the goaltenders, and then they finished off with 2-on-2. So working at in tight drills, trying to get the puck. I think that's something that they're really trying to work on as well. Again, it's good, and I think Brian Drury, shout out to him, he called it SAG, Small Arena Games. So I guess that's what they're technically called. To coach slash scout Brian Drury, shout out to him, fan of the show. But very interesting that that's what they were working on in practice. And wanting to really emphasize that. I actually did speak with head coach Daniel Fitzgerald that day, and I'll play that conversation for you guys now. So here's Daniel Fitzgerald kind of wrapping up that 2-game week and that rough game against the Windsor Spitfires, and looking towards the games coming up for that northern road trip. Joined on the post game by head coach Daniel Fitzgerald following the loss to the Windsor Spitfires. Coach, I know these weren't the two results that you want this week against London and Windsor. You guys had a lot of optimism coming into this week. But what is it right now with this team that you guys have to really work on to get things back on track here?
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that we unearthed, in that game against Windsor that, maybe they've been festering for a little bit, and we've avoided them, rearing their head. But it was a tough pill to swallow, but we're going to turn it around into a positive. We thought we played a good game against London. We played a tight checking game. That's how we need to play, and we're comfortable in tight games. We just need to come out with the 2 points, not just the one. And we really liked the start against Windsor. It's just it got away from us at the end of that first period with that goal and the penalty, and it kind of snowballed from there. But that's not acceptable. We know we need to be better, and we've addressed that.
When a game like that happens, Coach, is there really anything that you can say on the bench to really get things going, or is it mostly just it's one of those games that you just take the tape and throw it away, or is there stuff that you can really learn and take from that, or do you mostly just kind of throw that tape away for a game like that?
No, I'm definitely not throwing that tape away. We watched a lot of it, and it's like I said, it's kind of those things that we've gotten away with for a little bit, and when they all come crumbling down, it really exposes some of the deficiencies. So, and some of the things that we need to focus on even more. So, it's all right. We'll be better for it. We were embarrassed by it, but we will be better for it.
Aiden Castle gets on the board again. Can you just talk about him continuing to produce goals for this team? He's now leading the team in goals, and really it seems like on a nightly basis it's either Pano Femus or Aiden Castle that get you guys going on the score sheet.
Yeah, Aiden's been fantastic. His ability to hunt pucks, his ability to strip guys, his ability to finish at the net. He pops the space so well and makes himself available. That's why he scores so many goals. And he's really expanded his game. He's become a real 200-foot player, and he's continuing to develop that and add to his game. We've been so happy with Aiden so far.
Can you just talk about Captain Landon Cato? He's back in the lineup, scores the goal, and then gets the penalty at the end of the game. Like it just seems like every time Landon gets a chance to get back in the lineup, something happens, and just having your captain in and out like that. How do you guys kind of move forward with that? And I know he's really disappointed in not being able to be in the lineup as much as he hasn't been. So just thoughts on getting him back. He scores, and then with the penalty at the end.
Yeah, the goal was great. Kind of gave us a chance, actually. But I thought he played great both games. The penalty was a tough one to swallow. It was probably pretty borderline, but the league is cracking down on slew foots, and there's nothing we can do about it. We need to keep ourselves out of those positions where, whether we're towing the line or we're crossing it, it doesn't matter. We don't want to go anywhere near that line. So for the health and safety of the players, but also for our team and staying in the lineup. So, Landon knows that, and we need to be better than that. But we're a better hockey team when Landon's in the lineup. There's no doubt about that.
Last question. You're going out on the road now for a couple weeks, 5 road games. You're doing the North Bay Sudbury Sioux trip all in 1 week, and then you've also got the Ottawa Kingston trip. So what is the message to the guys going into such a big road trip here and, trying to pick up some meaningful points and just trying to have this team come together even more? You've had a lot of road trips already, but you've got a couple more coming up. Just how important is this going to be for you guys?
It's going to be critical. These are critical games. We're in a position right now where we're ahead of a few teams, and we want to stay that way. It's we want to start climbing up the standings. It's we've had enough of floundering around and kind of just hanging in there. We need to put our foot on the gas, and we need to start getting some points in the right column there. So we're looking forward to a big 3-game trip up north, and those are games that we feel confident that we're going to be competitive in, and we should be talking about some W's, but it's all about our preparation this week to be able to get there with the right mindset, with the right game plan, and then we got to execute.
Kyle, again, good words there from head coach Daniel Fitzgerald. Very insightful, as always. Couple of takeaways from that I took. Said that a few things were festering, and it kind of came to a head in that Windsor game. He said it was not acceptable. They did watch a lot of that tape. The slew foot penalty, I guess, that we forgot to talk about with Landon Cato. It was unfortunate, especially after Landon scored his first goal of the game or of the season. Finally getting back in the lineup, and then it looks like he's going to be out with the slew foot. Really just a bad game all around for the IceDogs in many ways.
Yeah, it's a shame. They're really cracking down the slew foot, and yes, I understand at a certain degree, and I also, I know they review it, but sometimes it's like we've seen it a few times, not even just the IceDog game. I've seen some other replays where it's not really clear that it's a slew foot. It's almost like just the way they're falling. It could have been interpreted as a slew foot, and they're calling it anyways. And it's like,
Yeah.
Are they actually like doing their due diligence here and actually reviewing the play? It's almost certain. It almost just looks like even if it looks accidental, they call it anyway. So it's like, what's the point of reviewing it if you're just going to call it anyways? Why have the whole dramatic getting the iPad out and staring at it for 15 minutes and saying, nope, slew foot anyways? You're just going to call anyways. If you look at that iPad because you think it's accidental, I haven't seen one overturned yet. So, like, I don't know. Regardless, I'm not going to go on here on a tangent about the slew foot, but other takeaways from Coach I took as well as him acknowledging that, it was embarrassing, but they're also working on it, which is, a good representation from the coach saying, like, we're not throwing out the tape. We're not putting this behind us. We're going to watch that tape over and over again to learn from those mistakes and, to learn not to have a similar game like this against another OHL team and not be that team and not get into that situation where this could happen again in a third period and learn how to, at least stay composed and not just roll over in a third period where it starts to get out of hand. So, good props to Aiden Castle as well. Aiden Castle's been a phenomenal player for the IceDogs so far this year. And then, Captain Cato coming back, scoring that nice big goal for them in the London game. But, with the unfortunate slew foot, that's got to hurt him as well, being out for so long and then coming back and now being out again. So it's tough, especially if you're the captain of the IceDogs. You kind of want to be not just there in the background, but there on the ice leading the team as a captain.
Yeah, and Joey Costanzo gets his second win against the IceDogs in as many weeks there. But again, it was not a goaltending thing. It was not on Rosie or Flores. The amount of grade A scoring chances in the home plate area that they like to call it now, in front of their crease, it was just the chances they were getting. Like, I don't think the best goaltender in the Ontario Hockey League is stopping some of these shots that the Windsor Spitfires were getting in the grade A. They were probably A+ opportunities that they were getting around the IceDogs. I mentioned it in my rant.
There was a picnic table set up there. It had their Windsor logo right in the center. And, they had a welcome invitation to anyone on that team to just walk in and do what they please. Yeah. Have some KFC, have some Taco Bell. You get the whole buffet there for you. Yeah. And not one IceDog player stepped in to take their seat.
Yeah, it was. So again, like you mentioned and like Coach said, they're going to be working on this, and it's the process. We want to see the results, and I'm sure that they'll come up with a better effort.
I don't say this stuff to hate the team. I don't want anyone to take this out of context here. I know this team is good from what I've seen in training camp, from what I've seen them build so far. I know that they can be better than this. And I just need to see that from them. And, I'm sure the coach is thinking the same thing. He knows as well that this team has the capabilities. They have the skill to be a great team in the OHL. So that's, when you see something like that happens, it's a little, it gets a little frustrating. It gets a little, I was going to say get frustrating watching that and feeling embarrassed to lose 11-3 when you know you're a better team than that. So
Yeah.
that's why I don't hate this team.
Yeah, and before we go to break, I think it's good to point out, like, do you think that because the rumor is that it's down to 3 teams, it's down to Sault Ste. Marie, Kingston, and Niagara for the bid for the Memorial Cup when it comes back to Ontario in 2024. Do you think that there's, some internal pressure that all the talking is going on about, if Niagara's going to be able to host it or not, and then you have, the people on the outside saying like they're not competitive enough to host a Memorial Cup, things like that. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole situation, and do you think it's a positive one for them right now? As they're still trying to build into a competitive team right now, and that the CHL wants whoever hosts the Memorial Cup to be a contending team or at least like a very competitive team. So, like, what are your thoughts on that right now?
So, I don't know when the exact date that they decided on. Like, I don't know what the OHL, like, what's the deadline for them to have to choose a team?
Like the formal, I think it's in January. The actual formal,
Okay.
not the announcement, but the teams like make the official bids. I guess you could say.
I would say at this point it would be tough to make a for sure decision. It's great there's more than one team running. That's they're being rumored to pick. That's good because it's the beginning of the year for all 3 of these teams. So we don't know what they're going to be like in 2 months. We don't know. Like, what Sioux could have a great start now, and then in 2 months they're last place in the OHL. And what if that was like the leading pick for the OHL in the beginning in October, right? Things could change. So I think it's tough to make a pick right now, but based on what the IceDogs have done up to this point, it's really tough. I think it's a really tough decision for the OHL to pick them. And at the same time, I wouldn't say it's not necessarily their fault. They're still trying to figure things out chemistry wise and find their game necessarily, especially with all the trades that since the beginning of the season until now, with all the trades that have been made and the inner swapping of the team, it was really tough for the IceDogs to find what other competitive teams have, and that's that line chemistry that they've had the time to build. IceDogs really haven't had any time to build with even the roster they have right now. It's not even, I don't even think it's like 2 or 3 weeks old yet, right? Because we just picked up Hull on waivers, so they had to get him into the lineup, and they moved Juan Copeland up after they made the trade with trading away Bryce Cook. So
Matthew Pappas.
Yeah, and Pappas as well. So like you really, it's tough when you make these trades because then you have to sort the lineup in a different way and have them build chemistry again. So I think where they are now is a decent spot when it comes to terms of a Memorial Cup bid. I think they would need to get more competitive and show that they are more competitive to get that. I know there are other factors that us two believe that at least the IceDogs could improve on when it comes to a Memorial Cup bid. We won't get into that.
No.
But as for the team on the ice, I think they need to show just a little bit more competitiveness. And that's an important factor. Like you said, we can't have a team. The CHL doesn't want a team here that's going to be a host city, and they automatically get granted into the tournament. That's going to be a team that's going to get blown out 11-3 every game, right? They have to be competitive enough to at least compete with the other 3 teams that are in that Memorial Cup tournament. So
the 3 championship teams.
Yeah, they do have some work to do. And you know what? I think, again, like I said before, this team, I think, has the competitiveness. They have the skill. I think they have all the tools to be a competitive team in the OHL. They just need to figure it out. So, and hopefully they do soon. Hopefully they figure it out in the next month or two. Maybe the month of November is a way better month than October. They start to figure it out. And, this time next month, we're talking about, let's go CHL, pick the dogs. They're competitive enough. Let's go. Yeah, right? So we don't know. We'll have to see what the month of November brings. It's a very, very tough start of November for the IceDogs. A 5-game road trip, and then coming back home against Michael Misa and the Saginaw Spirit, which is a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth of IceDog fans. I know that they really wanted that lottery pick last year, and to get a exceptional status player would have done wonders for the team. But especially what happened to us in the draft too, with the player not reporting, and he got his fair share of welcomes.
The welcoming committee was out in Niagara.
The welcoming Boo Birds were there for him, so it was great to see it. I don't know. I love to see it. I'll admit it. I love to hear that. That was sweet.
It's good that the IceDog fans were engaged, and that's the thing. Yeah. Like Sioux, they tried to apply for it the last time that the OHL had it, and then the COVID shutdown happened. It was between them and Oshawa, so then Ontario just lost the bid. And I feel like Kingston's attendance has been down, and it's unfortunate because last year they missed basically half the season without fans being allowed in the building with Shane Wright. So
yeah, I think Niagara holds that advantage too when we say it comes to fans, right? We're only one city. Like, we'd have a whole region base coming to watch the Memorial Cup tournament. I guarantee you that Marine Center will be sold out every single game of that Memorial Cup tournament, especially with the Ice Dogs in it, even with the other teams playing.
Yeah.
It would be a great crowd, and
you need the community support, and you need the fans to want to care to go to those games. We saw when it was in Mississauga, even with the Memorial Cup there, it bombed, and they ended up, having to fork out their own money to make up for it. So, Niagara,
the Ice
I
Dogs,
don't think wouldn't have that problem at all.
Yeah, and so when it comes to the competitiveness too, the Ice Dogs actually can have a little bit of an advantage. If it's coming down to Niagara, Sioux, and Kingston, they play Sioux and Kingston in the next 5 games. So if they really want to show that they're as competitive and better than these 2 teams who are in the running for the Memorial Cup, this would be the time to do it.
Good point. That's a very good point. They play these 2 teams
in the barns that are being considered for the Memorial Cup tournament. Just saying. Not to put any pressure on the team.
Yeah. Oof. Add a little bit more context to that. Oof. A little bit more pressure, but I like that. No, that's a good point, and we'll see what happens with that. Again, we're still months away from things even coming to head, but it was reported this week that those are the 3 teams that are most likely going to be bidding for the CHL Memorial Cup when it does come back to Ontario in 2024. So quick discussion on that, and then obviously anything that comes from that more, we'll talk about it here on the show. But with that said, guys, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to get the first installment of This Week in Ice Dogs History.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
Can't wait for that. We're going to get into our Twitter poll from this week, and we'll look at the standings, the player stats, and look at the upcoming 3-game Northern road trip. So stay right here. We'll be right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara Ice Dogs.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
This is Daniel Fitzgerald, head coach of the Niagara Ice Dogs. You're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast.
Fitzy!
Thank you, Coach, for that great plug coming back. Guys, welcome back to segment 2 of today's Dog Pound Podcast. Brandon Caputo and Kyle Aiken back with you here. Guys, if you're enjoying the video version of the podcast, make sure you're hitting that like, smash, and subscribe. Hitting that bell icon for all updates on videos that get released on our channel. Give us some love on the video side of things. We really work hard on the video versions of our podcasts. And if you're listening in audio form, go give us some love on demand on your audio platform of your choice. So, Kyle, I'm really excited. And actually, before we do that, we got a couple quick announcements to make. By the time this episode is recorded, tomorrow we will be announcing something very special, and it'll be something really cool for us, and it'll be our second time being able to announce something like that. So really cool, and something that stay tuned to the network on our social media platforms for our big announcement. And we're really excited and honored. for that, I can't really say too much more before but without giving it away, but just stay tuned for that big announcement. And then also, as Kyle mentioned in the first segment, I was at the rink this last week recording some stuff, some cool rapid-fire stuff. Stay tuned. We'll be putting that stuff together in the next couple of weeks, and you might see it if you go down to the Meridian Center. And we'll also post that on our channels as well. Some funny rapid-fire stuff and more personality from the players. It's going to be really, really cool, and some funny answers that you'll enjoy. So stay tuned for that in the coming weeks with the rapid-fire stuff that we recorded last week. So with that said, Kyle, I know you're really excited about this. With it being the 15th year anniversary of the Niagara IceDogs, I felt like we needed to kind of add something a little bit extra to the show this year. And speaking with the great longtime radio voice of the Niagara IceDogs, Ted Lehman on Giant FM Country 89, that guy's like an encyclopedia of IceDogs history throughout the 15 years. He's like somehow, I don't know how he has all this stuff tracked, but Kyle, I thought it was really cool that we could kind of incorporate the history of this team, and when we used to go to games back in the day, and Ted's been calling the games since they've been here in Niagara for the most part. So I think that adding this segment to our show on a weekly basis will be cool.
Yeah, my boy Teddy Bruschi, as I call him in the press box. But Ted Lehman coming in here as part of Country 89 radio when he does the commentary for the Niagara IceDogs. Now doing a segment for us here on the show. This week in history, or in IceDogs history. I'm excited for this to bring this to you guys every single week, and I'm just excited for you guys to hear. I did some nice post-edit production with this and add a little something to it, so I hope you guys enjoy this.
We were able to get an action shot of Teddy, which is a rarity, but you'll enjoy his sweater if you're looking on the video version for the graphics. So here it is, the first installment of this week in IceDogs history, right here on the Dog Pound podcast, with the radio voice of the Niagara IceDogs, Ted Lehman.
Your Niagara IceDogs became an OHL franchise back on June 5th, 2007, over 15 years ago, and so many great memories. Hi, it's Ted Lehman. Let's look at this week in IceDogs history, and we start on November 2nd, going back to the original IceDogs team in that 2007 season. And we discover the first ever IceDogs 10-goal game, and it seems only appropriate that team would do it in their former stomping grounds, the arena that became known as the Cottage, the home away from home, Mississauga's Hershey Center. A 10-2 win over the then Mississauga St. Mike's Majors. Andrew Agozzino got the first hat trick. Stefan Legion, 3 as well. He got a hattie. And then the regular names chipped in: Michael Swift, Luca Caputi, Andrew Merritt, Jordan Foreman. So many great names from that first team. Here's another bit of noteworthy history from that 10-goal IceDogs victory. There were 2,372 fans in the Hershey Center. 2,372. Pretty great crowd as you look at present day, and you'd be forgiven for believing that maybe half of those fans probably came from this region to cheer on the Niagara IceDogs in the former home of the IceDogs. Still in 2007, the date was November the 4th, the first Niagara-born player to score an IceDogs goal. Big surprise, if you don't get this one, Alex Friesen. 10:18 of the second period in a 7-0 win over the Peterborough Petes at the Old Jack. He was drafted in the second round, Alex Friesen, 35th overall, and a pretty great draft when you consider for Dave Brown and the Niagara IceDogs. Andrew Agozzino was the first rounder, chosen in the 15th position. And just for good measure, how about Johnson Andrews? Another local boy makes good. He was a 5th rounder. The first of 91 goals for Alex Friesen in IceDogs colors over that great career, and a total of 244 points Alex would amass. He went on to be drafted by the Vancouver Canucks, has spent a lot of his career playing in Europe, has been a very successful pro, but November 4th, 2007, the first ever Niagara-born player to score a Niagara IceDogs goal. On that same day, we've got one IceDogs birthday to pass along. Dalton McGrath, 4th of November, is turning 31. He came here for the 2010-2011 season. He was a part of the team that went to the Eastern Conference Final, only get knocked off by Mississauga in that memorable series. With that 10-4 record, Dalton McGrath had a goals against of .267, .913 save percentage with a shutout. A lot of fans, though, are going to remember Dalton McGrath for being every inch the goaltender. He was different, and he was also very aggressive. Look to March 5th, 2011. He would end up, Dalton McGrath, in a goalie scrap, again at the Jack, against the visiting Sarnia Sting. And who would he take on? Brandon Hope. You got it. The same Brandon Hope that would become an IceDogs netminder. I'm Ted Lehman. That's a look at this week in IceDogs history.
Wow, what a great first segment of This Week in IceDogs History by Ted Lehman. Wow, what a great storyteller. I literally felt like I felt like I was listening to an audiobook.
Yeah. If you ever write a biography, Brent, just have him read it in audio form.
Yeah, I'm interested when his book does come out. But notes from that, first 10-goal game for the IceDogs. It's almost fitting after they gave up 11 to Windsor last week. Andrew Agazzino and Stefan Legion both with hat tricks. Those are quite the names. I didn't know this, though, and this was interesting. Alex Friesen was the first Niagara native to score a goal for the IceDogs.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, and goaltender Dalton McGrath turns 31. I did not remember him fighting also future Niagara IceDogs goaltender Brandon Hope in a goalie fight.
Brandon Hope. Oh, God. I totally forgot that Brandon Hope was even on the team, to be honest. I totally forgot about him.
That's why we have Ted for this weekly segment. So really looking forward to his little Timbits every single week here on the show. And again, he does a great job covering every single Niagara IceDogs game, home and away, on the radio for Giant FM, Country89.com. So quick plug there for Ted and his stuff, and great job on the first of many this week in IceDogs history. So with that, Kyle, let's move on here to the Twitter poll, guys. I don't know if you're not following the podcast and you listen, or if you're listening to the podcast, you're not following us on Twitter. I can't help you because that's where you're going to get all of our IceDog content, all of our updates on things.
Well, for now, until Elon Musk decides to close down Twitter.
We'll pay the $30 for the check mark.
Oh, it's $8 now. It's $8. He changed it.
Okay, $8 for the check mark. I'd take it. So, anyways, we try to put out a poll every week for the show. Again, last week was not the week that the IceDogs wanted, but we did put out a poll. Despite the final results as a team, which IceDog player stood out to you the most this week, or this past week, I guess you could say now? Pano Femus with a goal and an assist, Aiden Castle, a goal and an assist, Landon Cato with his first goal of the season, and then Andrew LeBlanc also scored his first goal as a Niagara IceDog, being back in the lineup. The IceDogs finally got most of their guys back in the lineup this week, and then Cato's going to be out again. But as far as the poll results go, Pano Femus won this one with 45.9%. Second place was Andrew LeBlanc with 21.6%, and then Castle and Cato rounded it out. Kyle, were you kind of shocked by the results of the poll, or did you think that Pano was going to be the winner of this?
Not by the first place result. The second place over Cato and Castle. Castle's had like an incredible season, and Cato lighting a spark in his first game back. I mean, yeah, LeBlanc coming back and scoring, and it was nice, and he looked like he was developing some nice chemistry there with his brother out there, shockingly enough, on defense. But Pano being first, not shocking at all. He's been the spark for this team as well, alongside Aiden Castle. But Pano Femus has really stood out in terms of development. He's really playing like, back when we in the beginning of the year, when we were saying that, we know he's going to be coming into the season playing with that big chip on his shoulder and going and looking for something to prove, and he's really doing it so far. He's absolutely killing it out there, not only in working on his defensive side of the game, but offensively, he's just an absolute firecracker out there. Yeah. He looks fantastic, pulling out OHL goals of the night, left, right, and center. He looks so good. And he's reaching that next level. So I'm loving the development we're seeing out of Pano, our boy. and seeing what he's going to do now for the rest of the year. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Andrew LeBlanc, his goal was assisted by Jacob LeBlanc too, so that was kind of interesting. The brothers connecting there on that goal. But yeah, Aiden Castle, I think, is somebody that should not be forgotten about, because I'm going to pull up the player stats right now, and we'll quickly discuss that too. Talking about the Twitter poll, Kyle. Aiden Castle currently leads this team with 7 goals and 6 assists for 13 points in 12 games. I know Panos played 2 less games, so he has 1 less goal in 2 less games. But they're both tied right now with 13 points on the season. And they're really the two that are leading the way. Pasquale Zito's got 10 points, but he's kind of in a little slump right now, and he'll tell you that he's the first one to be frustrated that things didn't go well against his former team with the Windsor Spitfires losing both those games pretty handily. So he's kind of on a little slump right now as far as in the goal category. But Aiden Castle and Pano Fima is really leading the way for this team right now.
Yeah, and even our boy Juan Copeland. So shout out to you, Juan. If you're listening, I don't know if he's listening or not, but
he's too cool. He's too cool for this show, but
big fan of the show. He's coming up there with 9 points in 10 games and 4th place on the team, tied with Shirazadi. So I think he's starting to improve some more. Dan would be up there too. You can God. Oh man, Nolan Dan has had so many opportunities. I think we have a breakaway counter with him.
I think he's at 8.
You can tell that he's frustrated out there too, that he wish he could be bearing a lot of these chances, because I think if he can if he can actually score, and the amount of scoring chances that he gets, he would probably be the IceDogs leading scorer right now. So, and yeah, so you mentioned Zito. He's in a little bit of a rut. I know both those games against Windsor probably hurts the most out of all the losses in the last couple of games, especially against his former team. But I'm sure he'll find his game again. He brought out more of his physical game against Windsor the second time around. I saw him more out there physically. So, we know that he did bring that to the organization when we first got him. So we saw a lot of that in the second game. Yeah, like you said, Castle and Femus have been literally carrying this team on their backs when it comes to point and goal production. So, man, they've been killing it. And you know what? That's they're both high draft picks. So, we're gonna get that production out of both of them.
Robin Denicio made his return to the lineup after what happened over the past weekend, and then Daniel Michaud got back in the lineup. And again, how he started off on fire at the beginning of the season, and then him coming down with a pretty significant illness. You could tell this week he was a little rusty trying to get things back going. Didn't really look like the Daniel Michaud that we saw at the beginning of the year, but hopefully now that he's got a couple games under his belt, he's going to have a full week of practice here, that going into tonight's game and the next couple of nights here on this 3-game northern road trip, I really expect Daniel Michaud to come back to being the guy that we saw at the beginning of the year, and being a top 6 point producing center that he can be for this team.
Exactly.
And as far as the defense, Kyle, what are your thoughts on, they haven't really had a full decor yet, of all 6 guys playing at once. We're still waiting for Andrew Wysick to get back. But Denicio's been in and out of the lineup. You bring in Keene. Rebo's a new guy, so you got Keene and Rebo playing together. And then Cato comes in, and then he has to go back out. Van Netten's been in there playing a lot of significant minutes. You got Jacob LeBlanc back there playing significant minutes too. Like, what are your thoughts on the decor right now? Because we can't really blame them all for the goals. I think it was the team defense in general, like the forwards as well. Like, it wasn't just on the defense. It was the structure of the whole team defense on the goals. You can't just say, all the defensemen gave up 11 of those goals. There's 6 guys on the ice if you count the goaltender, and they were all, parts of that.
No, you're right. And like it was more team defense that's been looking not so great lately, and it's one of the key parts I think the IceDogs need to improve on. And it's tough when you have a defensive core that's literally changing every game, whether it's going from 6D to 5D, and then with the swap outs of injuries and sicknesses and suspensions. Is really, again, I go back to the chemistry part of it. How do you build chemistry when you, like, every night your D partner's different, right? It's really tough to do. And if it's 5D, it's just like it's tough to watch too, especially in the OHL. You want to have to be able to roll 3D pairings, but again, like you said, you can't really blame everything on them when it comes to their defensive game. That has been a topic of conversation that needs to be improved on. it's a whole team defense. When they're in their own end, there's a lot of collapsing in tight, not spreading out and covering the points. Like a lot of basic stuff that they do need to work on, and I'm sure they will be. But
Puck watching,
it's tough to watch the defense. Not only that, but watch when it comes to having them to try to figure out chemistry when their D partners change, get like by game. So hopefully, eventually, we can stop with the suspensions. We can stop with the injury. I know it's tough with injuries; you can't really stop that. It happens, but at least the suspensions, we can kind of cut those out so we can at least stay healthy enough that we can produce 3 D pairings with the same pairings every game. Changing them to try to spark something with the team is something, but we've been changing them for not those reasons. We've been changing them because there's been so many injuries and suspensions. We haven't been able to build something. So hopefully soon we can get things rolling again.
Yeah, and the plus minus right now in the last couple of weeks has been rough. It looks like a golf score leaderboard there. I feel bad for David Jesus because he's a -9 right now, 4 more than the second place person and worst plus minus on the team. Again, it's not on David Jesus completely. I mean, obviously he'd like to be better, but it just seems like every goal that's scored on the Ice Dogs, number 25 is just on the ice. Some of it's bad luck, and believe it or not, Pasquale Zito is a +6 right now. I don't know how he's a +6. With everybody else basically
getting off the ice in time,
except for Sirazati's a +1 and Denisio's a +1, even though he's only played 8 games. But everybody else is a minus right now, so it's just the whole team is a unit. It's not like it's one D pair and one line that's just getting lit up. It's everybody as a collective unit. Even the guys that are scoring, like Femus and Castle, they're still minuses too. They are scoring some goals in the power play, which is nice to see. But the 5-on-5 play, and especially that we keep seeing whenever they go to 4-on-4 or 3-on-3, that's something that this team really needs to work on right now.
Yeah, and I actually forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. We'll move into the standings and talk about this upcoming week really quick. Obviously, tonight they start off with North Bay, and then they go to Sudbury tomorrow, and then finish off on Saturday with the Gauntlet with Sault Ste. Marie. So 3 games and 3 nights. It's not going to be easy, and I expect them to be on fumes by the time they get to Sault Ste. Marie, but you still want them to come out with a great effort there. Right now in the standings in the Eastern Conference, they're sitting 8th place right now, so technically they're in the last playoff spot, although Hamilton has played 2 less games, and they're only 2 points behind them, which is still shocking to me that Hamilton's been struggling as much as they have. And then Sudbury rounding out in 10th place. And interesting enough, the first coaching domino has fallen in Sudbury as they relieved their head coach after a 3-7-1 start.
Yeah, it's tough to watch that too, right? Sudbury, I thought in the beginning we're probably going to be a team that we're going to be on the rise, but hopefully the coaching change helps them out a little bit. But yeah, the Ice Dogs, again, November is going to be a little rough start for them with a 5-game road trip, doing the whole North Bay Sudbury Sioux trip right off the bat, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night for them. And then, coming back home, then going right back on the road to Kingston and Ottawa the weekend after, and doing that road trip. And then coming back for the following Thursday. Again, Ice Dogs won't be home until November 17th against Saginaw, where they welcome in Michael Misa into the building, and then right back to Guelph the next day. So November is a busy month for the Ice Dogs, especially like in the beginning with the road trips, and then from the 17th to the 26th, they play 4 or 5 games. So Ice Dogs are gonna have again a busy month of November. Even tracking back to what we were talking about the Memorial Cup tournament, there's 3 games in this month or 2 games in this month that are crucial. That could be some crucial talking points when it comes to the committee that decides if the Ice Dogs are a suitable home for the Memorial Cup. So it'll be interesting. And it's interesting too. So they play, I just noticed this. So they play Kingston twice in next month, which is interesting as well. But they play Sudbury on November 4th in Sudbury. Then they play Sudbury on December 4th in Sudbury.
Oh boy.
Who designed that? And was that done on purpose?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but if you look at 4 of the next 5 games, they're against Eastern Conference teams. So they could easily, if they pick up some points here in those 4 games.
They're big games, yeah.
They could easily be upwards of, fourth or fifth in the conference if things go really well in these next 4 out of 5 games being against Eastern Conference opponents, Sioux being the only Western Conference team that they'll be playing in this stretch. So I think it's a big 5 games, like Coach Daniel Fitzgerald said, and they'll really see what kind of team that they're going to be working with here, as they try to get through the first quarter of the season and move forward. The thing that just blows me away is Ottawa at the top being 10-1. I know Ottawa is usually a good team. Last year they had kind of a down year, but before the pandemic hit, they had 2 straight seasons of being first place in the Eastern Conference. And Dave Cameron, that defensive style that he plays, it's not pretty. It's pretty bowling shoe ugly, but you know what? It gets the job done, and it's hard to play against a team like that. They've got 50 goals for and only 28 against. They finally lost their first game in regulation. It'll be interesting when Niagara does play them when they do the Kingston and Ottawa road trip next week, but we'll talk about that more next week. But Kyle, for this week, we got North Bay tonight, tomorrow Sudbury, and then Saturday Sioux. Out of the possible 6 points, what are you hoping the IceDogs come away with?
Possible 6 points. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to say 4. I want them to have 4. I think they not only I want them to have 4, they need to have 4 points out of this first 3-game road trip. I think you really need to set the tone on changing the season around, having a better month after the end of that last month of October. You need to really get things going, and I think in order to do so, you need to at least come out with 2 wins on this 3-game road trip to finally get things and go. I mean, 3 would be fantastic. That would really get things going, and you can write off that. But if they come out with at least 2, I would be happy. Yeah. You can't go 0-3 though. You cannot go 0-3. That would not be a good look.
Tonight they're playing North Bay, who's 7-4. They're 5th place right now in the conference. Sudbury, they just changed their coach, but they're sitting at 3-7-1. You'd think that they'd be ripe for the picking right now. And then going over to the Western Conference with Sioux, I just think that they need to, like you said, they need to pick up at least 3 points, hopefully 4 points. I think that would be a successful week for them. They need to get 2 points against either Sudbury or North Bay, to me, to have it even be anything close to a successful week, because those are 2 Eastern Conference teams, and you need to, out of these next 4 to 5 games, you need to start winning these games against these teams and get off this schneid, because it's been 5 games, but it feels like forever since this team last won a game, just because of the way the schedule has been playing out. But I'd really hope that they can come away with some points here, and like Coach Daniel Fitzgerald said, we need to start racking up some wins and moving up the conference here, because it's been too long now.
Right, exactly. They really need to. They really do need the at least 2 wins. I can't see any other option but to try their best and get these 2, at least 2. You can't go. If you go 0-3, I really don't know what to say. I'm like, we're gonna come on here, and I'm not gonna know what to say at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
now
what's gonna be?
Now what if they get a win and then they get 2 overtime losses, so they pick up 4 points by losing twice in overtime?
I'll take it. At this point, yes. I would say yes.
I know the coach staff won't like that, but
I know it has something to do with the Niagara, but I was just quickly looking. I think a game to circle, depending on how their month of November goes. If Windsor and Ottawa are still what they are right now with terms of standings and production, December 8th in Windsor, Ottawa goes, and that's the first matchup for these 2.
Ooh, could be a little preview.
I think that's a game to watch if these 2 teams are still doing what they're doing, because that would be. I really want to see Ottawa and see how. If you want to measure how good they are, because from what we've seen of Windsor, like Windsor looks like a really dominant team this year, and they've only lost 1 game in regulation, the same as Ottawa. Ottawa's only lost once in regulation as well. I know they're 11-1 or 10-1, whatever they are, but Windsor's only lost 1 game in regulation. Yeah, they have 3 OT losses, but only 1 game in regulation. So I really I'd love to see an Ottawa and Windsor game. But yeah, that Ottawa game the week after, and the Kingston road trip is going to be a tough one for the IceDogs as well. That would be a great win. If there's ever a win in this road trip that I want them to win the most, is the Ottawa game, because that would be a huge morale boost for this club.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sure would. So with that said, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the Dog Pound Podcast. Again, big games coming up for the Ice Dogs this week, beginning tonight in North Bay, tomorrow in Sudbury, and then Saturday in Sault Ste. Marie. Guys, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe, and guys, retweet our stuff on Twitter as well if you enjoy all of our content. Make sure you're following us at Dog Pound Podcast and at Armchair GM Pod. You can like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Check out our website, armchairgmsports.com. You've got no reason to not find our stuff. We are everywhere. If you just go and search in Google, you'll find us somewhere. So with that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for another episode of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara Ice Dogs. For Kyle Aikett, my name is Brandon Caputo. Go Dogs, go. Bark, bark, bark. And we'll talk to you guys again next episode.